When it comes to lifestyle, I want to mention two more things because these are really important. One is sleep. There have been studies that have shown that if people get less than 7 hours of sleep at night during the winter, they're 3 to 4 times more prone to get sick, colds and flus. So make sure you're sleeping. The other thing with exercise, moderate exercise daily has been shown in studies to decrease cold and flu tendency. Excessive exercise, on the other hand, has been shown to make people more vulnerable to colds and flus. Okay, so you want to be consistent with moderate exercise through the winter.
And then I think from your point of view...
there are so many ways you can stay well and get well faster if you are sick, and it's so important. You know, everyone in this room looks pretty healthy, but 30 years from now, when we're in our 80s, a bad cold or a flu can really knock us down. So it's good to start engaging some tools, learning some different things, trying some different things, to see what works best for you, because everyone's different. And the beauty of Chinese medicine is that it has identified that there's more than just one kind of cold, that the single virus can play out 5 or 6 different ways depending on how someone's inner terrain is. And so there's hot colds and cold colds. So those of you who have more a hot type of temperament, who get night sweats, these kinds of things, feel very warm, you'll do better with the white wine, for instance. Energetically, it's cooler. And those of you who are really don't like Portland winters and you feel cold and drippy all the time and a little rain just drives you nuts, you're better with the red wine and with the Swiss chard. So the Chinese have been thinking about what's hot and what's cold, and this can really help in addition to the biochemistry. There is, try to find a type of body work, and that includes acupuncture, that suits you and works well for you. About 90% of my patients do really well with acupuncture, and you said you've really enjoyed yours. But 10% of them, it's too much for. They do better with acupressure. And if you have a cold, something like this can really help take the edge off. During the early stage of a cold, you can do some hydrotherapy, which I hope Amy will come back around to talk about, because this is acupuncture with hot and cold towels. And we all have the plumbing for it and the supplies, and it's easy to do. And it's very similar to what we're trying to do with acupuncture, as it turns out. There are Chinese herbs that are good for colds, especially in their first stage, when you just touch your pulse and you can feel the pulse as you're touching your skin. That's a good time to sweat, to go to the sauna, to bundle up under a lot of covers, to take a hot bath. After that time, the cold's in deeper, and that kind of strategy isn't going to work near as well. So you can start playing with that. Another thing is meditation, both standing, moving, and sitting. The Chinese, for me, have redefined exercise and redefined meditation. A lot of us think meditation is hard. We have to shave our heads, go to a mountain, speak a foreign language, fast, do all these things. Sitting and closing your eyes for 20 minutes, they found in things like insight meditation, does amazing things for your immune system, okay? And even if you close your eyes for 5 minutes or 2 minutes, this can be a wonderful way to start. And so a lot of us think that exercise is something when we're in high school, and it's difficult and it hurts, and most of us are bad at it. But Chinese, using this thing called Qigong, have redefined exercise as something that's non-competitive and can be done even if you're in a wheelchair. And so when I was working in a sick building, Vanessa and I were talking about sick buildings we've known and loved. You know, you walk in the door and you start getting congested. I worked in a public building that was that way. All the employees had that. And so I got a cold about once a month. And a lot of our patients smoked that's back in the day when you had smoking rooms. Those didn't work, you know, the whole floor just reeked. And I got sick once a month until I learned some Qigong. And I found that just 5 or 10 minutes of just standing and moving my arms like a crane, or some other type of structured movement and visualization, could just take away the symptoms that I had. So that was the motivation for my practice of learning this, was simply to deal with colds and flus. With our patients, they try different things. They try herbs, they try body work, they try these kinds of classes. and see what they're able to do, see what they're able to engage, so that these colds don't have to knock you out. They don't have to be part of your life.
I think before we move away from, you know, the how not to get a cold, can we just still stay with the lifestyle, some of the lifestyle things that you both love? Amy, talk about that a little bit. Lifestyle choices and what we may do.
Well, I did want to mention managing our stress, and meditation is an excellent way to manage stress. There's all kinds of ways to manage stress. You know, I hear patients say everything from yoga or yin yoga to prayer to meditation to walking in nature to reading a book, drinking a cup of herb tea. Find what works for you. But it's countless studies probably now, don't you think, Roger, that talk about when you bring your stress level down, your emotional stress level down, your immune system works better. I also want to mention this. People forget this, but wash your hands. Make it a habit. And I'm horrible at this. I'm always leaning on my face and rubbing my face. Don't touch your face. Just don't touch your face during the winter, you know. Don't pick your nose. Don't rub your eyes. Wash your hands. And that's something we all need to be reminded of, because we get busy and we're going through our day and we're touching doorknobs and whatnot.
Yeah, nibbling and whatever.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm the worst, I will admit it. So I'm reminding you so I can remind myself. Okay.
Yeah, if you ask about lifestyle and what I love, it's one thing, and that's bicycling. Bicycling became a kind of qigong for me. It's sitting meditation and it's moving, and it's circles. And in Portland, we have a great town for bicycling. There's bike trails, and the cars really do look out for you. And I started bicycling to work after I got a $54 parking ticket. And I started riding my bike, and I just really loved it, and I felt better. And you know, for the first year in my whole life, I'm 52 years old, I didn't have a cold. That went for 1.5 years until I flew on a plane back east. But I'm convinced that the bicycling made the difference for me. There was this British research that said, if we get out of our cars, we'll die. If you're bicycling, you're breathing in all this pollution. I didn't find that to be the case in my own experience. So I love bicycling, I love it in Portland, and I recommend it for anyone who wants to be healthier this winter.
Are you bicycling, is that your mode of transportation then? Yeah? Leave the car at home. Yeah. Do you own a car?
I use a zip car now.
Oh, listen to you.
Yeah.
That's
Very
great.
nice. Yeah. One of the other things I wanted to bring up are flu shots. A show of hands, people get flu shots here? I see 3, maybe, a couple more back there. That's kind of a point of contention in offices, like in our studios, and signs go up, flu shot lady, nurse will be there, and there are always some of us holdouts who go, I'm not getting the flu shot. And then, so I don't know if, I'm one of those people that doesn't get a flu shot. Am I harming my colleagues that way, or are they, let's talk about that a little bit.
Theoretically, if they get a flu shot, they should be protected, right? I mean, we all know that the flu shot is not going to guarantee you don't get the flu. That's just
and it
one
seems
thing.
like you get sick right after you have one.
Some people do, and I've had a number of patients tell me they've never been sicker than after a flu shot. With that said, though, there's appropriate usages of all kinds of medicines, and I think that this is something that you need to decide for yourself, both medically with your doctor and philosophically. We discuss this one-on-one with people all the time based on their medical history and their needs and their vulnerabilities. It's really something I think we have to each make, a decision we have to each make for ourselves. What do you think, Roger?
I would agree. I'd second that. I think a flu shot is a personal decision between you and your primary care doctor, based on the latest evidence from biostatisticians and immunologists. And with Chinese medicine, we find that we can help in addition to that. The flu shot doesn't guarantee that you won't have a flu, but there are so many things that can be done in addition. High quality body work, working with a practitioner who can size you up and say, for your diet, lifestyle, and everything, move in this direction, because that's hard to see in yourself, those kind of imbalances. Getting exercise, trying some of this stress reduction kinds of things like meditation, biofeedback. These have huge outcomes, as good as flu shots in terms of the science on them, in terms of the outcomes.
So did you want to add something?
Well, I was going to say, for patients of mine who decide not to do the flu shot, or even if they do, homeopathically, there's a couple of things that you can do to protect yourself as well. Homeopathy is kind of a big science on its own and a little bit of an art, but there's two medicines that I recommend taken on a weekly basis through cold and flu season that kind of keeps your body on alert. One is oscillococcinum. Has anyone heard of that? Seen that in the store? That is homeopathic flu, basically. And there's another one made by a company called Unda, and that's called mucococcinum, same idea. So I encourage people to take 1 dose a week from basically October through February, and that just kind of makes your body feel a little more prepared. So if it does meet a virus, maybe it's going to react a little quicker and suppress the infection a little faster.
So let's move on to that point where we've now succumbed to a flu or a cold. Let's talk about food a little bit. What's kind of your favorite way to travel through that?
Chicken soup.
Thing? Yeah, chicken soup. There it is.
Studies show coconut water and chicken soup, I think, are the magic foods. You know, they're both full of all kinds of minerals. Coconut water has a ton of potassium. It just kind of relaxes your body. It's my understanding is it hydrates really, really well. And so I tell people, keep it really simple, rest when you can, and keep your diet very easy to digest. So.
Yeah, and coconut in Chinese medicine was used historically for the spleen and stomach, which is central for drying out phlegm. The spleen itself is a large lymph organ, and so it's very useful in so many ways. Again, there's 100 ways you can benefit a cold. I think for people that's keeping up good, sound, regular nutrition. I don't advocate fasting so much these days for most of my patients. They're not just getting enough quality nutrition. And sugar particularly is really devastating. I would agree with Amy on its effect on colds. It just seems to feed them.